Hi, this is Rich Kasman. I'm the chief economist for the New Jersey Economic Development Authority, and I'm here today with my colleagues Michael Candela and Peter Coates to discuss this latest version of our Economist Corner. This week, I cover New Jersey's residential housing market, which has actually been very strong over the past 6 or 7 months, somewhat surprisingly. Now, certainly, mortgage rates have fallen a lot, which has helped boost demand, but there are probably some other behavioral issues going on that is boosting New Jersey's housing market. The interesting thing, though, about the housing market has been that although demand has been up very strongly, supply has not followed pace. So what we have is a very tight market where demand has risen quite a bit, but supply is very constrained. And that has helped boost housing markets up about 20% versus a year ago in some markets. So eventually, I would suspect that as housing prices continue to rise, we would see more of a rise in supply. But clearly, demand continues to be strong, and until supply starts to pick up, we'll continue to see some big home price rises, most likely. So, Michael, turning over to you, you covered the foreign direct investment market, specifically for Greenfield investments in New Jersey in 2020. What were some of your interesting findings?
Yeah, so 2020 was an interesting year for foreign direct investment, despite all the hiccups. Foreign investors announced 32 projects in New Jersey, which resulted in an estimated $1.5 billion in capital expenditures and an estimated 2,000 jobs. A total of about 15 countries announced projects in 2020, with Canada and the United Kingdom tying for the most with 6, while Germany topped the ranking for the most jobs with an estimated 446. We saw projects on both the consumer side and the commercial side, with several openings from the retail chain Aldi, as well as 3 solar farm projects from the Japanese company Nexamp. Overall, this shows a pretty long-term trend where companies are pretty confident in New Jersey's sectors on both key sectors and also our consumer markets.
So it seems that 2020, even with COVID, the foreign direct investment flow was still pretty solid. And so companies seem to still be confident in investing in New Jersey. Peter, you covered county GDP that we have through 2019. And I know you covered shares of GDP by industry and also growth rates. So what were some of your interesting findings?
Sure. So as you mentioned, there were 2 major trends I analyzed. One was largest industries from 2006 to 2019 and what changes there may have been, and then what industries grew the most between 2006 and 2019. And in 2019, the largest industry in the most counties was finance, insurance, and real estate, and that was followed by professional and business services. It was interesting that in 2 counties, manufacturing was actually the largest contributor to county GDP, which kind of contrasts with the narrative that you've heard about manufacturing on the decline in the U.S. and in New Jersey. In terms of growth between 2006 and 2019, the industry that saw the most growth was information. And information consists of industries such as data processing, telecommunications, and broadcasting. The second largest industry in terms of which grew the most in the most counties was educational services, healthcare, and social assistance. And then that was followed by other industries such as transportation and warehousing, professional business services, and then also wholesale trade. One thing I would mention is that there was very significant growth in industries such as agriculture, as well as mining and quarrying. But those 2 industries, generally speaking, make up a pretty small percentage of county GDP across the state, even though they're both very important industries. But in some cases, those industries saw growth ranging from 200 to 1,000% from 2006 to 2019.
Interesting. Yeah, there was quite an array of industries that showed quite solid growth. And I think it was interesting how you pointed out the manufacturing sector, which actually, throughout the last 10 years, it's been a little bit of a renaissance, I think, here in New Jersey. Whereas there were, multiple decades of downturn. There is something of a renaissance going on, and interesting to see what are, industries that provide solid income jobs that we hadn't seen for a while really starting to pick up. So So it's good news for the state.
Yep.
Great. Well, that is covering our Economist Corner for this week. I hope you'll read it. And if you have any questions, always reach out to us at the NJEDA. Thanks very much.